Hi everyone. I decided actually to go ahead and record this video where I'm going to go over the second test, and I try to explain some of the question that majority of you guys missed. But if there is any question that I'm not going over and that is your question, please send me the screenshot of that question, and then I'll be happy and send it via email. Then I'll be happy actually to explain more and elaborate more. So I will be skipping some of the question that I feel like we had it in the practice question over the homework, but if that's your question, just let me know, okay? All right, and I'm going to switch actually from Connect to my whiteboard from time to time, so please just be patient with me. It might take a little while for me to kind of adjust. So I'm going to skip this question. I think that most of you got it right. The second question was about the total revenue. So basically the total revenue is price times quantity. Some of you actually missed this one. So when the price is 1, so you are multiplying price, which is from 0 to P1, that's the area of your price, and then your quantity is right here. I'm not sure if you can see, I'm trying to show it with my mouse. This area actually is your quantity. So you're multiplying the price by Q. So A plus B is the area right here, which is your total revenue when price is P1. As soon as the price drops to P2, your price times quantity, which is your total revenue, is B plus D. This is the area for your total revenue. I'm not sure why some of you missed it, but the total revenue is A plus B when price is P1, and it's B plus D when price is P2. So instead of just giving you numbers, I just gave you graph and letters. So the concept is still the same. For number 3, you are calculating the price elasticity of supply. I believe it was a practice question. I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but we had a very, very similar one for the practice question. So let me switch to my whiteboard, and then I'm going to show you how you can do it. So me stop sharing, and then I'm going to switch to my, let me find it, to my whiteboard. Share screen, whiteboard, and share. Okay. So this is the formula you are going to use. The formula is a midpoint. ES is QS2 minus QS1, which is the change in Q. And then I'm going to add these two quantities because we're going to take the average of these two quantities, and I will do the same thing. So I have a big kind of ratio, and sorry for my handwriting. It's not really that easy to write everything on this little thing that I have. So this P2 minus P1 is the change in price, and then I'm going to take the average of these two. So if you look at the graph, the price is, let me just double check, the quantity is 7 and 5, is 7 and 5. So I have 7 minus 5 divided by 7 plus 5 divided by 2. I should do the same thing for my prices. I have price of $2 and $10. So 10 minus 2 is the change between these two. Then I'm going to add them up, and I'm going to divide them by 2. So calculate this ratio. That will be your change in quantity divided by the average of the two quantities. Calculate also this ratio. You have 8 at top, and then you have 6 at the bottom. Then divide this number by this number. You should be able to get, I believe the answer was 0.25. It's 2. Yeah, I was right. It's let me write it here. It's 0.25. It is less than 1. So we know that whenever the price elasticity of demand or supply are less than 1, then our demand and supply are inelastic. Let me again stop sharing because I want to switch back. This is my, I think, second time or third time recording this video because I was not stop sharing and going back and forth between my whiteboard and my Connect. So I figured it out finally. So this question here is for, again, chapter 6. You had it in the lecture notes, and also it was a practice question. I'm skipping it. For this question, we are looking at income elasticity. So let me write down the income elasticity formula for you. And again, I have to stop sharing. How can I do that? Go back. Wait a second. Okay. This is the formula we have for income elasticity. EI is the percentage change in Q divided by percentage change in income. And if you remember, for income elasticity, same thing goes to cross elasticity. We just want to figure out the sign of our income elasticity and cross elasticity because they will tell a lot about the type of product, the relationship between the products. And in the question that I just showed you, there is a 3% decline in income. So 3% decline, it means that the sign here that I have for my change in income is negative. Same thing also happening here for your quantity. Your quantity also is going down by 1%. I really don't care about these numbers. We have negative sign here, negative sign at the bottom. So our income elasticity is positive. We know whenever the income elasticity is positive, the product we're talking about is normal. So that's about this question. So let me go back and let me start sharing my screen again. Going back in here. Okay. So I believe that I skipped this question. I didn't switch back to my Connect. This was the question that I was talking about. It was on the practice question and I skipped it, okay? And then I just talked about this question here. Remember that the questions are scrambled, so my number 5 is different from yours. So pause the video, go back to Connect when you want to find a question with the answers, all right? The next question that I have here is about cross elasticity, very, very similar to income elasticity. We are trying to figure out the relationship between good X and good Y. And again, we're just interested in the sign of this cross elasticity here. So if you read the question, no calculation basically is needed. It says that there is a 5% increase in price of good Y and 30% increase in quantity of good X. So you have positive divided by positive. So the sign of cross elasticity is also positive. So these two X and Y are substitute. If the sign was negative, then the cross elasticity was, the cross elasticity would tell you that X and Y are complementary. This question is also goes back to the income elasticity because you have in one column the percentage change in quantity demanded, in the other column you have percentage change in income. So let's just start with product A. So you have -1 for percentage change in quantity at the top of the ratio divided by -1, which is the percentage change in income. So negative divided by negative is positive. So product A is normal. The question, however, is asking which product is inferior. So A is not inferior. B, you have +3 divided by +6. So the sign of income elasticity is again positive, suggesting that B is normal. Look at D. Again, +8 divided by +4. So the sign for income elasticity one more time is positive, suggesting that D is also normal. Only C is inferior because +1 divided by -1 is negative. So the income elasticity is a negative. So C is inferior. Some of you missed that question. This question was given in the practice question, and I just changed the product to lemonade. So if you look at the practice question, the numbers are exactly the same. And for this question, we're going to use the first formula we have for price elasticity of demand, and I'm talking about this formula. So ED is the percentage change in Q divided by percentage change in price. You have the income elasticity. The reason I'm using this formula is because you have the elasticity. When you want to calculate the elasticity, we do not use this formula because of the reasons that I explained in one of the videos for this chapter. You do not have any idea about your new price, your old price, new quantity, old quantity. So when you want to calculate the elasticity, you do not use this formula. But this question is different. For this question, you have the elasticity. Your demand actually for lemonade is inelastic. It's less than 1, it's 0.8. You are looking for the change in price, and the question already gave you the change in quantity. If you read the question carefully, the question is telling you that the quantity actually went up. So there is a increase basically in the sales in the quantity. Okay, we remember from law of demand that there is an inverse relationship between price and our quantity demanded. So here in this question, quantity went up. So we know that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity. So the reason we have this increase in quantity is the reduction in price. So you have to look into the answers that are talking about reduction in price, okay? And the rest is just algebra. You are going to solve for your x. So I'm solving for x, 16. My x is 20%, but you have, in your answers, you have 2 answers suggesting this 20%. You should choose the answer that is talking about reduction in price by 20%. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me go back to the test. This is super easy. It was from the lecture notes. This question was also from the lecture notes. I'm skipping it. Let me explain a little bit about this question. So it says that the quantity in this question is fixed. That's the quantity supplied. So the number of applicants every year in Lone Star Sci-Fair is fixed. So no matter what your price is, the quantity supplied is fixed. So instead of having the typical shape of upward slope for supply, we have a vertical supply here. And we know from the notes again that whenever your supply is vertical, it means that your supply is inelastic, perfectly inelastic. So no matter what the tuition is or the price is here, the quantity supply is fixed. So the supply here is vertical. Okay, so the answer was perfectly inelastic. I'm skipping this one. It was from the notes, law of diminishing. This was also from the notes. You also had a similar question in the homework, so make sure you check it out. Same thing also here. That's the consumer equilibrium situation condition. So I'm going to skip that one. It was straight from the notes. In this question, you are going to calculate the marginal utility. Let me write it down. So you want to calculate here the marginal utility for quantity 4. So I need the total utility of quantity 4 and the total utility for quantity 3. So let me again go back to my whiteboard here. So the formula we have for marginal utility is the change in TU divided by change in Q changing Q is really easy. So your quantity, you're looking into quantity 4 and quantity 3. So quantity 4 minus 3, that's the change. When this guy Henry eats the third taco, the total utility is 36 utils. And when he eats 4 donuts, the total utility is 80 utils. So 80 minus 36, 80 minus 36 divided by 1 will give you the total, sorry, the marginal utility or the additional utility, which is 44. Okay. Let's go back to the test. That was the answer. This is also from the notes. And remember, there was one graph talking about in chapter 7, the relationship between total utility and marginal utility. So that graph suggests that as long as a total utility is increasing, no matter the rate of the increase, because remember that the total utility goes up at the very kind of high rate at the beginning, and then it still goes up, but slowly till it reaches the maximum. So as long as we're talking about the increase in total utility, our marginal utility is positive. But remember that marginal utility as a decreasing function, so it goes down all the way from the first unit of output that we consume. The marginal utility goes down, okay? So marginal utility is positive as long as the total utility is increasing. But as soon as the total utility starts to go down, marginal utility becomes negative, okay? So definitely review that. Skipping all these questions are from chapter 5 that I'm showing you. Super easy. You can find them from the notes. Very similar also to the textbook. Super easy. Short run, long run. It was in chapter 6. But we'll come back to this concept of short run and long run in chapter 9 again. For this question, we are looking at just basically how we define elastic and inelastic supply. So the price elasticity of supply is less than 1. So this statement is wrong because then the supply will be inelastic. This one is about total revenue test. So remember that the total revenue test is all about the relationship between price and total revenue. If price and total revenue move in the same direction, then the demand is inelastic. If price and total revenue move in the opposite direction, the demand is elastic. And if your price goes up or down and your total revenue does not change, then the demand is uninelastic. We have actually a question talking about total revenue. So I'm gonna explain a little bit more. Okay, so let me make sure that I am showing you the test again. Okay, share. All right, so I took a little pause, sorry. So for this question, you have the change in price, and the question is telling you that the toothpaste elasticity is less than 1 because it says that the demand for toothpaste is inelastic. Okay, so let me go back to my whiteboard to show you formula that I have for income elasticity that I already, of course, shared with you for the other questions. So our ED is the percentage. I can write, instead of change, I can write this little triangle, and we read it delta. It means change. So the change in, just to be kind of quicker and faster, is the change in quantity divided by percentage change in price. So this delta means change. So question is telling you that this whole ratio is less than 1 because the demand for toothpaste is inelastic. So it is less than 1. And also, you know that the change in price is 2%, and your price actually is going down. So there is a reduction in price by 2%. First of all, just like the other question, remember that law of demand tells you that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity. Since price here is going down, so you have to choose the answer that I was talking about, increase in quantity, okay? Mathematically speaking, for this ratio to be less than 1, your top part should be less than your denominator. So any number less than 2% will give you, at the top of the ratio, will give you the answer which is less than 1. So basically anything less than 2% will give you the answer of, for this ratio, be less than 1, okay? Also, if you use the definition we had for inelastic demand, inelastic demand suggests that when the demand is inelastic, the change in quantity is not at big. Change in quantity is very, very small. So your price is going down by 2%, your quantity will go up, but the increase in quantity will be less than the change in price. So you have to pick the answer that is talking about increase in quantity. How much? Less than 2%. Okay, so hopefully it makes sense. Let me switch back to the test. Let me show you the next question. For the next one, you have to basically calculate the total utility and marginal utility. If you remember in the homework for chapter 7, there was a table in one of the questions where you were calculating W, X, Y, and Z. There were your missing numbers, and you had to basically play around with the numbers. And I kind of did the same thing here. Instead of a table, I'm just giving you basically all the information in plain English, okay? So let me write down all this information that I have here, okay? Let me go back to my whiteboard. I'm going to write down all the information that I have. So the quantities that I have here for these question are quantity 1 for the first cup, quantity 2, quantity 3. I have the TU here. I do not have the TU for my quantity number 2 or for the second cup, but I do have the MU, and then I have also the TU. So I'm going to call this TU TU1, this is MU2, and this is TU3. To get basically, the question is asking us to calculate marginal utility for the third cup. So we need to calculate the TU2, total utility for the second cup. So the question is telling us that the total utility for the first cup is 18. You are looking for marginal utility 3, that is our unknown. And you have the total utility 38 for third cup, 38. And then the marginal utility for the second cup is 12. So to get marginal utility for the third cup, you need to calculate TU2, okay? So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm going to use the marginal utility formula, which is the change in total utility divided by change in quantity. So I have the marginal utility 2. So I'm going actually to use the formula. This is the change in total utility divided by Q2 minus Q1. So I have the marginal utility, so I'm just going to plug it in. I do not have the total utility for the second cup. That's what I have to calculate to get my marginal utility for the third cup. I do have the total utility for the first cup. It's 18. Quantity is super easy. It's 2 minus 1. So I'm going basically to calculate for TU2. So TU2, if you do the math, is 30. That's your 30 utils. So I have the TU. Now I can use the formula and calculate my marginal utility. Let me change my color. So I am going to now calculate marginal utility for the third cup, which is TU3 minus total utility of the second cup divided by 3 minus 2, which is the change in quantity, okay? So let me plug all the numbers. TU3 is given. I have it. The question gave it to me, 38. We just calculated TU2, that's the total utility for the second cup. 30 divided by 1, because 3 minus 2 is 1. So the marginal utility is 8 for the third cup. So you had to first calculate your total utility for the second cup to get your marginal utility for the last cup. Okay, so you had to take basically 2 steps to get the answer. Next one. For the next one, you are going to use the consumer equilibrium condition. We can switch back. All right, so remember, again, this is from chapter 7. Consumer equilibrium condition tells us that the marginal utility per dollar of all the goods and services we consume should equal if we want to be a happy buyer, okay? I have 2 products here, waffle and ice cream. So the marginal utility of ice cream divided by price should be equal to the marginal utility of waffle divided by price. You have the prices for both of them. So the price is 6 and 2. 6 and 2. You write it down. So the price is 6. Here the price is 2. And all you should do is to kind of multiply your price by quantity here, because you are trying to figure out, you do not have any information, numerical basically information on your marginal utilities, but you can tell basically what is the relationship between marginal utility of ice cream and marginal utility of waffle. And for that, I'm going to multiply the marginal utility of waffle by the price of ice cream. I'm basically going to kind of I will do the cross multiplication here. So 6 mu waffle is equal to 2 mu ice cream. I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So mu waffle times 3 is equal to mu ice cream. So it suggests that marginal utility of ice cream is 3 times bigger than waffles. Okay, go back to my test. Okay. The next question is again about income elasticity. I already explained that, very similar to the question that I explained to you. We had kind of 2 similar questions to the income elasticity. And for this one, you are going to use the total revenue test to answer this question, because the question says do not use the midpoint formula. So you have the total revenue, you have the prices, and look, it says when the price is $30, your TR, total revenue, is $600. When the price is $20, your total revenue is $500. Now the question is telling you that the price is going down from 30 to 20. So let's see what's happening to your total revenue. Your total revenue is going down from 600 to 500. So price is going down, total revenue is going down. They are moving in the same direction. So your demand is inelastic. So this statement is true. So again, total revenue is all about the relationship between price and total revenue. Definitely review the lecture notes. This question is again about consumer equilibrium condition that I just wrote you for waffle and waffle and ice cream. But here you are going to basically solve that ratio and get the price for taco. Let's see how. We'll do it quickly. So it's the same ratio I had here, but let me clear up everything. So I have the MU of pizza divided by the price, then it should equal to the marginal utility of taco divided by price of taco. Now I'm going to basically put all the information I have in this ratio. So marginal utility is 16 and 8. The price is $2 for pizza. So price of pizza is 2, and we are going to calculate the price of taco. So 16 divided by 2 is equal to 8 divided by x. I'm going to solve for x. So 16x is equal to 16. So x is $1. That's the price of taco. Chapter 8. Sorry, chapter 7. We go back to the test. Next question is about perfectly elastic demand. It's from the notes. Check it out. Here you are going to calculate the price elasticity of demand using the midpoint formula. I'm not going to write it down because I already solved it for price elasticity of supply from the graph. So you don't need all the information in this table. You are just calculating the elasticity between $4 and $5. So the numbers you are going to use for quantity are 3 and 2. So you should calculate your price elasticity of demand using the midpoint formula. Same thing here for this question. So you are going to calculate the elasticity between 9 and 11. So the quantities that you are going to use are 2,000 and 3,000. Remember that the price elasticity of demand is always negative, but you are going to get rid of the negative sign, and then you are going to compare your results with number 1. If it's greater than 1, demand is elastic, less than 1, inelastic, equal 1, you need elastic. And last question is about total revenue test. So let me switch back again to my whiteboard. So we're using the total revenue test. We're going basically to calculate the total revenue for these two prices. And we know that TR is price times quantity. You have the price here, which is 5. And then when the price is 5, your quantity is 15. Quantity is 15. So your total revenue is 75. And price times Q for, let me check the quantity. Quantity, I believe, was 10. Yeah. The quantity is 10 when the price is 7. So the question is asking us, okay, the price is going up from $5 to 7. So price is going up from 5 to 7. Look at the total revenue. Our total revenue is going down from 75 to 70. So we have an inverse relationship between price and total revenue. They're moving in the opposite direction. If you look at the notes, suggests that the demand here is elastic. If they move in the same direction, both of them going up, both of them going down, then the demand is inelastic. But here we kind of have an inverse case. You could use also the midpoint formula to figure out the elasticity, but to answer the first part of the question, you have to calculate the total revenue. And honestly, using the total revenue test in this question actually is faster and quicker, but you could use that. Anyhow, this is pretty much the review for the second test. I didn't do it for the first test because I believe that the first test actually was kind of over the concepts and everything. Here we had more calculation using formulas. That's why I did the review also for this test only. But if you want me to go over the first test, just let me know. Email me. I'll be happy actually to do it if you want me to. But most of the questions in the first test were over the definitions and some of the concepts that we had, except probably the opportunity cost, PPC, but the rest of them were basically straightforward from the notes and the practice question and homework, just like this test. So let me know if you have any question from both exams. And remember that the final is comprehensive, and that the reason that I tried actually to do a little kind of review for this part, because this test was basically over the micro chapters. That's why I wanted to spend some time talking about this test. But the final exam is comprehensive, so you have to study everything from the beginning. So I wanted just to make sure that you know all the answers, especially for this test, as I said. But again, let me know if you want me to do the review for the first test. I'll be happy to do that. However, I'm not going to define like economics and things like that. I'm going to skip most of the questions. What else? I just wanted to tell you something else. Just make sure for the final, I guess that you kind of know how I'm asking questions. You need to review the practice question, okay? I don't know how much you studied the practice question, but some of the questions were very, very similar to practice question. And also I use lecture notes a lot to write my test and homework. Of course, I try to make some of the question tricky, like the toothpaste, because you can answer some of those questions if you understood pretty well. But those are for you if you want to get an A. But even if you skip some of the tricky question, you should be able to answer all the questions by just reviewing the practice question and the lecture notes, okay? Definitely, if you have time, go ahead and read the textbook, because remember that you learn more from textbook, and my notes are basically the kind of the summary of each chapter. I cannot put all the information in my notes. So I would definitely suggest you to read the textbook, okay? But anyhow, I hope that you find the video helpful. Let me know if you have any question, guys, all right? Let me stop sharing and see you soon.